we go. Okay, pay attention. Bob loved to make people happy. In fact, if you weren't happy, Bob wasn't happy. He lived every day to make people be happy. Well, Bob lived in a land where everybody wore hats. Now, Bob never asked why. He only asked which. Which hat do I wear? Well, his mother loved this hat. Anybody out here love this hat? And every time Bob would wear this hat, his mom would say, "Yay!" It made Bob so happy. Because his mom was happy. And since he was always at home and he always wore this hat, his mom always said, "Yay!" And he was happy. But one day he got older and he thought he would go out and get a job. So he put on his hat just right. He walked out and he's walking down the street. And people walk by and they say, "Yuck!" What in the world? He keeps walking and pretty soon another person says, "Yuck!" It's like, oh, and he looks and sees they do things different. So he dashes around a corner. He fixes his hat. They wear them different on the street. And he walked back out and they all said, "Yay!" Ooh, woo! And Bob was happy. So they were happy. Well, Bob got to work, walked to his boss. His boss took one look and said, "Yuck." "Oh, you must be like my mom." His boss said, "Yuck." Said, "Man, here, we wear these kind of hats." So Bob put it on. His boss said, "Yay." Oh, and it made him happy. His boss was happy. Well, he worked there all day. By the time he got home, he walked out of his office. He quickly switched his hat. Walked through the street. I don't know. I'm not gangster, but nothing more than a white guy trying to be gangster, right? Everybody said, "Yay." And then when he got home, he switched it. And his mom said, "Yay." Oh, and Bob was happy because they were happy. But Bob soon learned that he had a special ability, a gift. He could change hats so fast that people didn't even realize it. He was able to switch from one to the other. And this ability helped him become popular. Pretty soon he was elevated to positions until soon he became the mayor over the whole town. His acceptance speech was brilliant. People like his mom thought he was wearing it like this, and they all said, "Yay." People in the street, man, they thought he was like this, and they all said, "Yay." And the people, the office people, man, they thought he was wearing this, and they all said, "Yay." But one day, while he was working, office people came storming in, pushing a man and said, "We found a man who deserves to be executed." Bob looked up, and for the first time in his life, he saw a man with no hat. He said, leave him with me." So they walked out. He turned and looked at the man and said, "Where is your hat?" The man responded, "I don't wear one." Bob was like, "What? You don't have one?" The man was like, no, I don't want one." Bob was like, "Man, but you don't, everybody wears a hat. It's just the way things are around here." And the man said, "I'm not from around here." And Bob was like, well, what kind of hat do they wear where you're from?" The man was like, "No hat. None." Well, Bob had never heard of such a thing. He looked up at the man and said, but what if the people don't approve?" The man looked back at Bob and said, "It's not their approval that I seek." Bob had never heard such words. His whole life was about approval. Before he could say anything else, the man said, "I have come to tell people that they don't have to live their lives to please people. I'm here to show them and tell them the truth." Well, if Bob had ever heard of truth, he had long since rejected it. He looked at the man and said, "But what is truth?" But before the man could answer, he heard outside his window a crowd screaming, "Kill him! Kill him!" So he looked outside, and there were the street people, and he walked out and said, "There's nothing wrong with this guy." And they all said, "Yeah." Okay, they all said, "Yeah." Yeah. He was like, "Oh," so he shut the door. About that time, the business people, he quickly switched his hat and said, "This man is innocent." And they all said, "Yeah." And Bob was like, oh, he couldn't stand to hear it. He looked at the man and said, "Who are you?" And the man looked at him and said, "Who are you?" Bob didn't know. But suddenly he wanted to know. About that time, his mother comes storming into his office. Says, "Bob, you kill that man. He's not one of us. But kill him." Bob put his hands over his ears as the screams came from every direction. He looked up at the man, and the man just stood there, silent. Bob was tormented. He yelled over the screams, "I can't please them and set you free." The man just stood there. "Bob," he said again, "don't you understand? I can't please you and them. Speak to me," Bob yelled. But the man with no hat, he spoke one word. He said, "Choose." Bob said, "I can't. I wash my hands of the choice. Take him away." But even Bob knew that in making no choice, he had made one. I want to challenge you to get filled with the Holy Spirit, to continually study and obey his word, and then go dream some dreams and take some risks for God. Oswald Chambers said, "Trust God and do the next thing." See, you choose to enter this process of becoming, and you must choose to continue the process of becoming. You can't please God and please the world. And God is looking at you and saying, "Choose." Back to this glass of water. You see, over time, this water has absorbed the color of this tea. Looks like tea. It has absorbed the aroma. It smells like tea. Of the tea. It's absorbed the flavor. Tastes like unsweetened tea. It has absorbed the character of the tea. There's so much that this glass of water has actually, it's got a whole new identity. You no longer call this a glass of water. You call it a glass of tea. A transformation has occurred. See, becoming is all about the process of transformation. It occurs as we daily choose to follow Christ. And over time, our speech, our attitudes, our likes, our dislikes get more and more and more in line with God's. We take on a new flavor, a new aroma, a new character, a whole new identity. We become Christ-like. God says, "He which hath begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ." God is committed to the process of you becoming Christ to your world. The question is,